Every year, food companies say dried fruit can last decades, sometimes even 30 years. That sounds totally fake, right? But you ever wonder why your snacks turn bad so fast, while some old jar just sits there forever? You buy the healthy pack, but the label's a chemistry class. Why do you need all those extra words if grandma's fruit was fine alone? What are you really eating? How do you know what's real and what's just for show? Hold up, because this goes way deeper than just a best before date. If one old fruit can survive 30 years, what's wrong with everything else in your kitchen?
It's the end of May and it's time to harvest my apricots. So let's go do it.
Fresh apricot is loaded with water, 0.93 on the water activity scale. That number means germs see it as an all-you-can-eat buffet. Leave one in your fridge, and you know how fast it gets fuzzy. If there's lots of free water, everything from bacteria to mold moves in. Nature puts a timer on every juicy fruit, and that timer is set to expire fast. Drying flips the script. One research test showed drying slashed apricot water activity to 0.63, sometimes even down to 0.48. Below 0.91, bacteria struggle. Under 0.70, most molds are done for. Suddenly, dried fruit isn't just a snack, it's a vault. The germs get locked out, and shelf life goes from days to years. No fridge in the world does that. Families in northern Pakistan know this trick cold. In Hunza, they slice the ripest apricots, spread them across rooftops in the sun, and wait. No fancy bags, no preservatives, just air and patience. Those jars last through brutal winters, no problem. If you ever spot a mountain rooftop loaded with apricots, that's survival planning in action. Not a single packed-in plastic sticker was needed. One number, water activity, can turn a fresh snack into a 30-year survivor. Makes you wonder why today's snacks still panic on your shelf. Every time you see that number, you know who wins the storage game. And once you understand why drying alone can stop food from going bad, it starts to feel strange seeing a healthy dried fruit that still needs a long list of chemicals on the back. If old dried fruit stays safe alone, why does your healthy dried fruit need scary tiny labels? Flip any store-bought dried apricot bag and the ingredient list hits like a science quiz. Sulfur dioxide, sodium metabisulfite, E220. Not exactly what you'd expect from a fruit. A food scientist once spelled it out. Sulfur dioxide keeps dried apricots from browning. Orange fruit looks better on shelves. That's the big reason for all those names. Those extra additives slide past most folks without a hitch, but for some, it's a different story. That allergy review from 2009 found sulfite sensitivity of 3 to 10% among asthmatic subjects. That means for every 10 people with asthma, one might feel the side effects after a couple bites. One snack, two outcomes. Who's taking the risk this time? Think about what the preservative is really doing. It's not there to kill germs. It's all about fighting browning, softness, and anything that screams old. Meanwhile, Hunza dried apricots never needed any of this help. Drying was enough to keep families fed through months of cold. Chemistry replaced common sense. Drying blocks germs, but packet fruit needs a second line of defense just to look pretty. All that extra stuff, it's chasing color, not real freshness. What's on the back of the bag starts to look a lot more important than the happy photo on the front. Chemistry experiment? You'll want to guess, but don't, because what's hiding in plain sight will mess with your head soon. When did Grandma's jar lose to cute packets that die in months? Dried apricots shrink by 25 to 35% once the water leaves. That's not bad news, it's survival mode. Every drop that disappears means spoilage gets a little less likely. Up in Hunza, that's how families built a food safety net. They dried their harvest on the roof, pressed kernels for oil, and relied on that stash until snow thawed. No packaging plants, no store runs, just what they made with their own hands. Everything changed with new roads. Suddenly, trucks brought snacks from far away, and processed foods replaced those simple jars. The local climate report explained it. When people stopped eating their own dried fruit and started eating imported goods, cases of diabetes and blood pressure shot up. It didn't happen overnight, but the pattern's impossible to ignore. Swap old food for new, and health takes the hit. Turkey grabbed a huge piece of the pie, now shipping 65 to 70% of the world's dried apricots. Your little packet? One of thousands moving from tree to truck to warehouse to your kitchen. Think about what got left behind. The cute packet is easy. But that jar on Grandma's shelf was insurance, not just a treat. With every new bag, ask yourself, what's missing from the shiny label? The answer probably isn't anywhere on the box. If real dried fruit kept itself safe, what are we really pouring onto today's bags? A Hunza apricot comes out dark, a little rough, sometimes even wrinkly. Compare that to the glossy, bright orange ones at the supermarket. It's not a better apricot, it's just been engineered to pop. Left alone, dried fruit always fades from orange to brown. That's not rot, it's just sugars changing with time. To fight old looks, companies add sulfur dioxide and often more, like sugar syrup and a hit of oil. It's basically fruit in disguise. One study said sulfur dioxide keeps apricots lighter, slows down flavor loss, and holds texture in place. That color boost isn't for you, it's to keep the product moving. All that shine isn't free. Dermatologists once named sulfites allergen of the year for a reason. For some, it's just a snack. For others, a single serving means rashes, gut pain, or even trouble breathing. The risk isn't obvious until you run into it, but the label doesn't exactly yell about it. So every extra additive is a clue. Are these packets really about protecting your snack? Or are they just keeping a global shipping empire on schedule? Every new ingredient is one step further from the old ways. The more you see on the label, the less it feels like food that could actually last on its own. Are preservatives saving dried fruit, or hiding how weak modern dried fruit has become? A Hunza apricot's journey is simple. Tree, knife, roof, sack, home. That's the whole story. Apricots dry under the sun, get turned by hand, and head straight into storage. Maybe one person carries the whole year's stash home. No mystery steps, no chemistry kit. Now, zoom out. Factory fruit could be grown in one country, dried in another, packed in a third, then shipped across oceans. In 2023, Turkey exported 75,000 tons of dried apricots, worth over $426 million. To survive all that, the fruit needs help. Preservatives, sugar, oils, thick plastic, maybe even a blast of heat before sealing. Every handoff in that chain makes the fruit a little less familiar. For companies, this all makes sense. Cut spoilage, boost profits. But from your perspective, every extra step adds something to your snack you didn't ask for. When a simple snack turns into a science project, it's time to ask why. Preservatives don't just keep the fruit safe, they cover up how fragile it's become. If your food needs all this protection just to make the trip, maybe it's not really built to last after all. When did simple dried fruit turn into a lab test? And why is your family eating it? Fresh fruit is basically a magnet for germs. Water activity above 0.95 gives mold and bacteria everything they need. Dry it down to 0.60 to 0.85, and suddenly, only the toughest bugs stick around. That's not magic, it's straight numbers. A fresh apricot starts at 0.93, but dries to 0.63, or even 0.55 with the right coating. This is why dried fruit outlasts almost anything else in your cupboard. Those best before dates? They're about quality, not safety. If your fruit is really dry and stored tight, it just gets less tasty over time, not dangerous. Food storage companies claim freeze-dried fruit in sealed cans can go 10 to 25 years, sometimes even 30. That's older than some people watching this. If drying does that much, why does modern snack fruit still need backup from a lab? One study in BMJ found that every 10% rise in ultra-processed foods meant a 12% spike in heart disease risk. Fruit snacks that look healthy might be pushing you toward problems you never see coming. The difference between old-school and modern snacks gets a little fuzzier every year. If one village batch outlives the whole store, what else about safe dried fruit is wrong? Countries set limits on sulfites, E220 and its cousins, by parts per million. That's just a number. No one asks if it's needed, only if it's low enough to pass inspection. So your snack clears the law. But what does that actually mean for you? More ultra-processed food means more risk, plain and simple. One BMJ study found eating over 4 servings of these foods a day boosted early death risk by 62% compared to eating less than 2. Each bag is just a single hit, but it adds up week after week, year after year. One major international study said ultra-processed foods could be involved in 1 out of every 7 early deaths in some countries. That's not pointing a finger at one apricot. It's a warning about what happens when simple food turns into factory food. Hunza dried apricot is still just fruit and sunshine, especially if you eat it with other simple foods. Once you layer on the extras, sugar, oil, fake flavors, it slides toward the processed side fast. Ask yourself, does your dried fruit keep you safe today? Or does it slowly pile up new risks? Every bag you buy lands on one side or the other. Before we end, do you really want to see what this exposes about all your dried fruit? Every answer starts with the label. Apricots and water mean you're close to the old ways. See sulfur dioxide, E220, and a handful of codes? That's food engineered for the long haul, not just to feed you. It solves storage, shipping, and marketing problems first. How you store dried fruit is a superpower. Freeze-dried in cans? 10 to 30 years easy. Regular dried fruit in a jar, cool and dark, lasts way longer than you'd think. Good storage does more than any powder or packet. Habit beats hype every time. Every 10% jump in ultra-processed food brings real, measured risks. Swap plain dried fruit for a sugar-coated one, and your health line shifts quietly. It's not about being perfect. Every bite, every bag bends your habits a little. That 30-year fruit headline is the opposite of hype. It's just a test of who's in control, simple rules or fancy labels. Grab your next snack, look at the label, and decide, am I buying real food or just another story? That tiny choice is all it takes. If you thought that was wild, you'll want to see what's behind the next food label. Go on, tap the next one. You never know what you're really eating until you check.